So the next speaker that is going to share on step one works a really strong program, and he's pretty awesome. So Majer, you want to?
My name's Majer, and I'm in the attic.
Yes, you are.
This will probably be the last time that they asked me to do it. Y'all ready for a candy-coated first step? Yeah, come on. Y'all ready for a candy-coated? Y'all can walk out of here and say, "There's a candy-coated first step." You know? There you go. Yeah. Y'all can pass that around. Everybody's like, "What the hell is this guy talking about?" Well, I had to come in with some fire from the first speaker, you know. So again, my name's Majer, and I'm an addict. I picked that up off of a speaker tape. You know, humor and joy are two things I'm learning in this program, and to be able to laugh, and for y'all to go out of here and say, "Hell, that dude in there literally gave us a candy-coated first step." And you know what I'm saying? Because it's a play of words. That's something I've learned. So with step one, my sponsor had busted me with a spiritual knot in the ass. You know, we admitted we were powerless over addiction, that our lives had become unmanageable. The guy that ran me through it on the first one had me read that thing probably 3 times and was like, you know, what are some words that stand out to you? And like the negative stuff, powerlessness, unmanageability. He said, look at these 2 words, had, or were, and had. And I was like, I didn't get it then because he's a guru, you know? Just like all the other guys that are cutting out a path of recovery. You know, they understand something because they've been doing it for so long. It wasn't until I got into like the first 8 questions of step 1. And it forever has screwed my getting high up, you know? It has. Because at that point in step 1, and there's stuff to read, you know, there's so much importance inside of just the readings before you get to the question and then to your answer. That even in those readings, there was words like concrete action and healing. Stuff I ain't, you know, I'm a guy, you know, I'll heal on my own, you know, I damn sure ain't gonna ask for help, you know. And the lack of just not knowing no better, you know, that strange mannerisms we develop, you know, in our active days, just don't go away overnight. And so within that reading, before you got to the first 8 questions, and I challenge the guys that I personally know, not even sponsoring, that I know. If you know me, I talk about this. This is that sharing the experience. Like I got a gold nugget or a rock. You know, I got that rock now, you know what I mean? But instead of just keeping it for myself, I try to share it with people. And that was something that he had told me too. He was like, you know, you can do a step 12 without even being at step 12. It's just going out there sharing what you have picked up. And so it asks us, in the reading, it talks about the disease of addiction. Now, before this, no, I didn't identify as an addict. You know, I didn't identify as anything but a problem. You know, and so I'm a very analytical, I think that's the word, systematic kind of guy. You know, I'm an OJT, on the job training kind of guy. If you show me, I can mimic it because I'm a chameleon. I didn't realize that. I just copied stuff. I copy my environments. And thank God I could copy into this, you know? So as it was pointed to me, and this was the key thing in this program, is having that sponsor that can point that kind of stuff out to you and have you look at, well, in NA, it's obsessive, compulsive, self-centered routines of thinking. And I was like, what? You know what I mean? Like, and for us guys, mentally masturbating a thought. That's how I understood it, you know? And then my actions, my thoughts lead into my feelings, and my feelings would lead into my actions. And I had to, and in step one, that helps to break that down, you know? I learned how to identify the disease of addiction, which I used to associate in the beginning with the drug use, you know, because and if you're new here, it is the drugs. If you've been here, it ain't so much the drugs no more, is it? You know, and I can laugh at that. I can laugh at that today because I go back to the same guys that I've been doing this for a couple of years now with, and be like, man, I get it. I get what you were saying. I didn't get it then, but I got it now, you know? And like those, like burning bush moments, you know? And it isn't like confetti and candy-coated first step messages, but it was like lonesome by myself, kind of, and not obsessing or compulsing about using. It would just come in the subtleness of the breeze or my outside environment where I can think now without being so clustered with my own thoughts of wanting to cop and use and all that. For me, when I discovered that what the disease of addiction is, I picked that side, and that's my overall simplicity definition. If I talk to somebody in this program and the what's the disease of addiction, I have a baseline definition that I can relate, that I can make a connection with you on. You know, not, oh, this is what I think it means, or this is what I feel like it is, you know, because I know the literature is the literature, you know, and yes, I quote a lot of literature. I believe in the literature, you know. The biggest testimony is that I'm here clean, and that's all it takes, you know, for me. And I know I see a lot of heads nodding, you know, I know I'm not alone in this. Within this process of step one, I'd always heard it. If you don't do a thorough first step, then ain't none of them gonna matter, you know. And I credit my sponsor for that entire. He still sponsors me, you know. Like we still go over things and talk about problems, you know, and literature that knowing how self-centered I was in step one, when I was asked how did my drug use affect me and others, that others didn't even have a name. And that was some real wholesome stuff right there. To have another grown man say, you know, I was in a hostage situation with a woman, I held her hostage, you know. And when I was at the time wanting to talk about, you know, how it affected her, I didn't even address her as a person. She was an item, you know, because that's how self-centered my thinking is. If it don't benefit me, to hell with it, you know. It also showed me a new ground for respect and being human again, you know. And he'd look at me and he's like, it's okay, you don't know no better. It's like, you're insane. You're freaking insane, you know. By doing this step one, it's going to get me ready to head into my step two. Just so happens, it talks about the restoration back to sanity. You know, I still ain't quite figured that one out neither. I like being a little off, you know. I like my people. You know, I actually like people today. I like myself, man. I love myself. You know, that step one was using words like intimacy. And, you know what I thought intimacy was? Sex. Honestly. Didn't know. My daddy was a man's man, but never talked to me about that. We didn't talk about that. My sponsor would use words like intimacy and give me a very simple way of looking at it. Into me you see. What the fuck? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, ain't two men gonna have no intimacy. I know I'm cute, but damn, son. It was a close familiarity is what the Webster Dictionary actually describes it. Oh yeah, if you're gonna plan on doing step work, get a dictionary. Or actually, I ain't gonna tell you to get a dictionary. Everybody's got a smartphone. Look the word up. Look the word up, man. That's the kind of gifts that step one brings into your life with a sponsor and working the first step. That whenever I came across the resentment, again, I used to say I wasn't really well learned, I'd use the fictitious excuse that I have a hard time reading. I do. I have an even harder time spelling, but it doesn't keep me from trying. It keeps y'all from reading what I got written, because you can be like, damn, I don't know what the hell he's saying, but I know what I'm saying. That resentment was re-seeing the memory of a certain situation. And you know what those certain situations were, the shit that keeps you up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Why in the hell did I go do that? Why did I go down Main Street at 2 o'clock in the morning? You know what I mean? I got pulled over kind of deal, I used to get those kind of feelings after I'd get busted or arrested. That's whenever, I feel guilty then. It's like, oh, please, just one more time. That foxhole prayer. I know I ain't the only one that does it. I haven't had to do it in a few years, thank God, because of this program. But that it's those challenging words that lead into step one, that broaden not only like your intellect to be able to understand and to be able to relate, but also to be able to fellowship. Because like with me, man, like I'm a disconnect. I can do pretty good for a little while by myself. At least that's what I used to think. Isolation, which is also brought up in step one, is my enemy. Who'd have known that, huh? Nah, I can't be left by myself. Left to my own devices, I will fuck some shit up. And the biggest one that I will screw up is my own self. Master manipulator. Now, that was the first time I ever, I've had judges say some off the wall stuff, or ex-girlfriends call me some off the wall stuff. But when I open up that step guide, and it works how and why, and our basic text talks about those that being able to not isolate myself and know the difference between being lonesome and lonely. That was something I learned in step one. Just because I'm lonesome doesn't mean that I'm lonely. Being here, I'm not alone. N.A. never alone, never again. That's the kind of connection that the first step brings about. And just like every other addict, well, I didn't do it this time. I love this program. I love the family that I have in here. The first step allowed me to see the destruction that I would cause, you know. And that was, I'm not going to say that was the most heartwarming kind of hug kind of thing, you know, to actually experience, because, you know, that's the last thing I want to do is look at myself. It's the last thing I want to do, especially here in the beginning. Oh, you got me. Whoops. You know? Yeah, I know I'm a bad guy, but, you know, that's in the past, whatever. That within step one, understanding that there were these things called spiritual principles that were going to be very, very lucrative throughout my life. You know, like, how in the hell am I going to do this? Like, how in the hell am I going to get from 1 hour to the next hour? HOW. Honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. There's even a section in step one that identifies honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. I had to get honest with myself. Not honest with you, not honest, you know. I had to get honest with myself. I had a problem. Whether I wanted to admit it or not, I had a problem. The open-mindedness was, for me, basically calling that dude, saying, hey, they said to call. You know, I'll never forget when I did make that first phone call, my sponsor answered the phone, and he was like, holy shit, you called. Well, hey, how are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, okay. I understand that now. I didn't understand it then, you know. And for the open-mindedness, being open to working the 12-step program, and then getting into the willingness is the action, you know. Like, it's a honor and a privilege to be trusted to come up here and talk about this program. I'm not always going to be the best example when it comes to being perfect, because I'm far from it. You know, I have a hard-ass head, and I bump it a lot in this program. I do. But I'm fortunate. Like, stubbornness is one of my things. The same bullheadedness that you tell me to go left, I'm going to fucking go right. You know what I'm saying? Just because you said to, is also the same thing that keeps me going inside of this program. You know, as it also says that in our literature that we come to realize that some of our liabilities come to be some of our truest assets. You know, like, I'm a mechanic, so if you lock your keys in your car, I can actually unlock your car. You know what I'm saying? It used to benefit a whole lot of corruption before I got clean, but today I can actually use the same same skill set to help somebody. You know, it ain't that the first step has introduced me. It's not that I'm just a bad person. I was just doing all my shit the wrong way. I was using all my gifts and stuff like that in a self-centered manner. You know what I mean? That I come to realize in step one that I ain't powerless once I finish step one. It's a past tense statement. But you have to finish step one to get the past tense. You know? That when I'm a very negative-minded person, you know, so I'm gonna hunker onto the negatives of anything first. First thought wrong. We actually got a bumper sticker in the merch that says "First thought wrong." That's me, man. That's somebody said, "Hey, there's enough of us here that we can say first thought's fucked up, and it's okay. It's all right, man. As long as I don't act on it. Sometimes I say it." I'll say it real quick, but then I'll come back and promptly admit when I was wrong, you know, or you know, give a helping hand. Within how much time do I got left? What? Jeez, okay. I thought this was going to not take as long. That's why I wanted to burn up some time with the candy. Yeah.
She added 10 minutes to you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Hey. I'm going to pull out the book. Because a lot of this, man, is a lot that I know off the top of my head that, I know that I don't want to differentiate from the literature. The literature is written the way it's written, and it's say like countless of millions of addicts. I'm looking right here on my step one. This was also something else my sponsor had me do, and it was with the word play. I had to take the word admit and write accept above that. That was another thing that, and I can remember, it took me a minute, man. I was real foggy before I started this, and I can remember times when I would admit to shit and had nothing to do with it. You know what I'm saying? Like those disassociations that I had mentally. You know what I mean? Being so higher than bat pussy. That I thought that the CIA and the government and everybody was tracking me. You know what I'm saying? Like, for real. Like, I was that kind of a person. I'd admit to a lot of stuff. I would, man. Good, bad, and ugly. Could I accept the admission? And I was like, I don't know if I want to plead guilty or no contest to that, and it was from words like that where I came back a year later and said, man, I really do accept. Now, you hear me, it took me a year to come back. I'd worked past step one and got into other steps and came back and said, hey, I am an addict, I wasn't sold on the dream right off the ripper. I don't think anybody is. There's some now. There's some that tell you, hey, I know I am. I just really wasn't quite sold into everything. I know that in whatever case that I feel like I'm not at ease physically, but I'm at dis-ease physically, that I'm in my disease. I'm gonna say that one more time. I saw some heads nod, but my sponsor had me associate the word disease with dis-ease, and so because there's a section in here that talks about the healing, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Anytime I'm not at ease in either four of those realms, I'm in my dis-ease. I'm in the dis-ease of my addiction with the obsessive-compulsive loop thinking, self-centered thinking. That my hope. Anybody like acronyms? I love them. I love them. Now, I ain't going to go through here and tell you what some of my acronyms used to be. But I'm going to share one with you that I ended up picking up a couple of steps later, actually in my fifth step. And I got it marked in here, and it's crazy how some of the stuff you mark in your beginning, and you go back and you actually go back and look at some of the stuff to see how far you've come along, and you realize, oh shit, this was there the whole time. But hope. Now, a lot of people got a lot of different things for it. I remember calling my current sponsor and telling them, man, this word hope keeps popping up. And I was like, I got an acronym for it. How our process erects. Yeah, leave it to me, okay? And he chuckled, and he said, how about evolve? And I was like, okay, cool. Hope for me, and the only hope I have is in Narcotics Anonymous. I am that sick of an individual, man, and I'm a firm believer that I'm so sick that I have to work this for the rest of my life. That step one solidified my life sentence, more or less, because in step one I realized what the disease is and what not the disease, and that I'm given a choice. I'm given a choice, and I can make decisions. Even before you get to a third step and before you get to your first year, you can make decisions. That how my process evolves is going to correspond to the kind of work that I do into this program. And then, like I said, I'm sitting here on step one, and this by far to me my favorite step. It is, because it, like I said, it forever screwed up me wanting to go get high. Now I get a thought, because I'm not human, or I'm not human shit. Yeah, there we go, hey, hold on, there they go again, they're getting me, y'all. I'm telling too much, man, I know I'm telling too much. The disease don't like that, and it'll confuse and dumbfound your fucking speech, man. Oh yeah, and I'm looking at, like my self-centeredness, that loop thinking, denial, don't even know I'm lying. Anybody heard that acronym? Denial? Well, to actually get that to rhyme, I had to write it like how I spelled it. Don't even know I'm lying. Those were some really hard-hitting kind of sections for me, man, where I had to separate my pride and ego. Because I know something, I know something about this. And realize, no, I don't. I'm just faking it. Not act as if that the literature talks about. And I know that's pretty confusing when you hear act as if and fake it till you make it. They are not the same. They do not have the same type meaning. They may sound similar, just like a candy-coated message versus a message, It's when you get into it and you start to look at it. Let's see. I'm fixing to quit like you, man. I'm fixing to tap, but I'm so stupid I want to stay in the same spot, Come on, anybody else want to do that? They won't ask me to do this again. Oh yeah, here's something crazy. Like unmanageability. It actually gave me two different definitions, one for outward and inward. I want to share on those real quick. Outward unmanageability, often identified by such things as arrests, job loss, and family problems. Some of our members have been incarcerated. Some have never been able to sustain any kind of relationship for more than a few months, and some of us have been cut off from families, asked never again to contact them. In the short little almost 3 years that I've got, man, I haven't lost a job. I haven't been arrested. And this is the longest I've ever not, since I was about 14, has had that shit happen. And family problems, like I have a family. I have aunties and I have uncles. I have brothers and I have sisters. And they're not marks. They're not, my personal piggy banks. They're not people I choose to want to screw over, One of the biggest family problems that I had encountered was I was told never to come back around. One thing about this program was, like I lost my mom a little over a year ago while being clean. And step one, it talked about reservations, So there might have been a reservation, but I wouldn't identify it. Well, when I got to the fourth step, I ended up identifying it. So that if my mama ever passed away, because I was a mama's boy, that there would be no other means to continue. That's where my mind was, Thank God that my sponsor had me work on that shit. It was so uncomfortable, dude. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because it'll slowly subside in some areas until you start talking about sex. Then that gets into some sticky shit. Come on, y'all. Y'all can laugh. It's all right. You know, we're all twisted in here. Um, my family problems today. That was the biggest thing, and I got through that clean. In some aspects, in our basic text, there's somewhere around 98, page 99, talks about the No Matter What Club. Until you go through some stuff, and you're like, hey, I'm a proud member of the No Matter What Club. 5 minutes. Yes. All right. I did it. I'm doing it. Yeah, man. That was one of the hardest things that I thought that I wasn't never going to be able to get through, you know. And I was able to make it through it clean. I can't say that I knew what to do. I knew what not to go do. Just go get freaking loaded. Because in step one, I realized how selfish it is to go get high. I learned that if I truly cared about anybody, that after knowing in step one what all I've caused and what all it's done, you know, that to turn back and go back to that would be the biggest insult. And my current sponsor told me, like, you're now not into this for yourself. Now you're here. Now you're really guilty. Now you got community service. You're going to start serving other people. Sorry, I did a lot of prison time, so, you know, I know there's a couple of hardened faces in here. I know we've been there and done that, you know. And so now I'm stuck with outside grounds, you know, cultivating this thing outside, daisy chaining to other guys in this program, you know, because it doesn't just stop in the rooms, you know, and within all this literature, it'll ask at, what are you doing outside? What are you doing for others, you know? And I'm grateful for it, man. So with that, I'm going to stop.